Welcome to this forum for candidates for the 11th District Urban County Council. We have invited all the candidates to participate, and they all indicated they would participate, but Mr. Charles Lloyd is not here, so we're going to proceed without him. If you would like to ask a question, you may submit it in the cards that are available at the desk, and we'll have volunteer members of the league who can pick them up for you. We're asking each of you to please take out your phones, beepers, everything, turn them off so that we don't have them interfering. We do ask that you refrain from videotaping, audio taping, or photographing during the forum, please. The forum is being taped by the Lexington Public Library staff, and they are going to make them available on YouTube and on their channel 200 after the forum. If you will check later this week on the Lexington League of Women Voters or the library's websites, you should find the schedules and or the links to those YouTubes so others can watch. We're going to ask that you hold your applause until the forum is finished to give the candidates as much time as possible. And members of the league, Barbara Welsh and Tammy Fegley, are timing today. They've got great big signs that nobody can miss. Okay. Are we ready, Tom? Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome, and thank you for joining us here in the Farish Theater at the Lexington Public Library. And we appreciate those of you who are listening or viewing at home. My name is Cindy Heine. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, and I'll be moderating the forum today. This forum is for the primary candidates for the Lexington-Fayette Urban County Council District 11. It is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Lexington, the Lexington Public Library, and the Frankfort-Lexington chapter of the Links Incorporated. This forum is being videotaped and will be available for later viewing. Check the League and the Lexington Library websites for schedules and links. All of the District 11 candidates have been invited. Unfortunately, Mr. Charles Lloyd indicated he would come and he is not available, so we are going to proceed without him. We are following the League of Women Voters policies and procedures for this forum. In order for the candidates to be fairly heard, we've randomly drawn for the order of opening remarks and questions, and then we drew a second time for the order of closing remarks. The candidates will have 90 seconds to introduce themselves and to close. For the first round, we're going to ask each candidate a question. We're going to give them 90 seconds to respond. The other candidates will then be able to follow with 30 seconds of additional remarks. Once we finish that round, we will open it to audience questions, and we hope you'll help us by providing some questions, and we will give each candidate 45 seconds to respond to the questions. And finally, we'll go to closing with 90 seconds each. We're going to start with opening, and Ms. Shafer drew number 1, so she will have 90 seconds to introduce herself.
Very good, and thank you. My name is Sandy Shafer. I am a lifelong Lexingtonian, and I had the privilege of representing the 10th District for 13 years. That's 1994 through 2006. And now, 13 years later, I am running again, but no longer live in the 10th District. I live in the 11th District. The lines have been redrawn, so I live in the same place, but every 10 years, as the census is taken, the numbers change, and so I get the opportunity to then bring 13 years of experience to the 11th District. As council member in the 10th District, I was able to do many things. Some things that you can see today. If you go along Southland Drive, you'll see many of the things that are continuous, keep going on, results from seeds that have been planted from previous work that was done. I'm a consensus builder. I try to build teams and try to build neighborhood associations in that even in the 10th District, I went from 9 neighborhood associations to 22, which was the largest number of neighborhood associations built in Fayette County. and that was information given to me from the Fayette County Neighborhood Council. So I have lived in the 10th District, but now want to represent the 11th, and I have 13 years of experience, and I look forward to telling you more about myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jennifer Reynolds is next. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Jennifer Reynolds. And first I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the library and all the sponsors and all of you for being here and coming out today. I grew up in Central Kentucky, and I was a professional ballet dancer before I decided that I wanted to do something outside of myself instead of staring at myself in the mirror all day. And I went to study anthropology and Spanish. Then my husband and I traveled extensively with studying and working abroad. And when we came back to the States, we decided to make our home here. And I have been working in the district, the 11th district, for over 5 years, building a bilingual outreach program. And I've been working closely with Peggy Henson and the city and other local organizations in that endeavor. And what's most important to me is to bring people together, to bridge the gaps that we have in our community. We have the most diverse district in the 11th district in the whole city. And 1/4 of our population is Hispanic. And the fact that I speak Spanish and am a qualified interpreter, and my background in anthropology, and my love to serve people, I hope will serve me well on city council. So I just really want to, like I said, build bridges and make your issues be my issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Swope is next.
Thank you and good afternoon. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event today. Thank you to the Public Library for opening its doors. Thank you to my lovely wife who is in the audience and all those who have encouraged and supported me in this endeavor. My name is William Swope, and I am running for the 11th District Council seat. I'm a lifelong resident of Lexington, Kentucky, and I'm a product of the Fayette County Public School System, and I stand with teachers. I've been a resident of the 11th District for about 10 days short of 12 years. I was a firefighter. I started my career as a firefighter at Station 11, which is located on Harrisburg Road, which is part of the 11th District. Also spent time at Station 14 on Roanoke Drive as a firefighter, again in the 11th District. I currently work as a paraeducator substitute school teacher, again at a facility located in the 11th District, just off of Harry Sykes Way. I have 31 years of experience in local and state government. I spent 23 years with the Lexington Fire Department, and I retired as a chief officer. I then accepted an appointment to become the top-ranked fire official in the state of Kentucky as a state fire marshal. I served in that capacity for 8 years, and I'm proud of what we were able to do there. I'm running for the 11th District Council seat because I wanted to make a difference in the community I call home.
Thank you. And Mr. David Jones is last with introductions.
Thank you. For those of you that don't know me, I'm David Jones, running for the 11th District Council. I'm a native Lexingtonian. I've lived here all my life. I've lived in the 11th District, same house, same district, over 20 years. I didn't move in to run for office. I have deep roots in the 11th District. And I have published and written extensively about the issues I feel that the 11th needs to have addressed. We have a growing crime problem. For example, it's citywide. It's in the 11th District. And I'm not seeing that addressed. We have aging infrastructure, and we have retail and commercial zones and residential zones in the 11th District that I don't feel the proper attention has been paid to. I'm running because I've got a proven successful business career. Over 27 years, I've been in the real estate business, among others. I've started and finished more than $100 million total of real estate projects from start to finish. I have a proven track record of succeeding, and I believe I can bring those skills to work for the 11th District. I believe they are the skills that are needed in the 11th District. I've published, and I'm not a lifelong political candidate, and I'm not a typical political candidate. I believe if I'm asking for someone's vote, I'm not going to give you campaign slogans like new ideas and new faces. I actually laid out on my website at davidisbetter.com specific programs that I believe will fix the 11th District.
Thank you very much. Going to the first round of questions, Ms. Reynolds, you will take the first question first, and you'll have 90 seconds. What is your primary economic development strategy for the 11th District? Please explain.
That's a great question. I think it's very important to make sure that all of the residents of the district are working and having a well-paying job. I think right now we're struggling with some wages and things like that. In terms of growing it and making it better, I think we need to bring local businesses, more local businesses to the district and highlight the ones that we do have in order to create more jobs and to create local jobs, not other companies coming in that don't know anything about the area, so that we can have more people working where they live and better paying jobs. And as well as working with local government to make sure that we bring in the types of businesses that we want as a community.
Thank you. Mr. Swope.
I believe the strategy needs to incorporate the resources that we have in place. Lexington is certainly a metropolitan area, and it is surrounded by agriculture. And I think we have to take advantage of both of those resources in order to promote economic development. Economic development is what is going to grow the city, and growth needs to occur in order for the city not to become stagnant.
And Mr. Jones.
Thank you. I have proposed on more than one occasion that what we're going to need to do to reinvigorate the 11th District and revitalize it is to get a combination of government investment and redevelopment as well as private investment. I've also proposed doing a district-specific mini chamber of commerce, which will highlight the local businesses, allow them to draw on resources to help grow their businesses, pool their money to advertise, and highlight the unique features of the 11th District that are unlike any other district in Lexington.
Thank you. And Ms. Shafer.
Yes, I know that Peggy Henson has worked hard in this district, and she's created several studies that have been participated with heavy participation through the district. And one of those is the Versailles Road Corridor Plan, the Oxford Circle Redevelopment Study, and also the Cardinal Valley Small Area Plan. And in order to look for primary economic strategies, I would like to go to those because they've been paid for, they're sitting there, they're ready to work, and I would put together a group, a blue ribbon group of individuals to try to help identify those. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question goes first to Mr. Swope. What strategies do you suggest to address crime in the 11th District?
That is an excellent question, and that is a question that means a great deal to me. As I've said before, I have 31 years of experience in the field of public safety. When we talk about crime, we have to talk about crime holistically, and we really have to talk about or think about how we view crime. It's important that we support our law enforcement department. We have a new chief, Chief Lawrence Weathers. I am confident and comfortable in what he will do. But I also think we need to look at different models of policing that are out there. I've spoken on many occasions about an initiative from the National Network of Safe Communities. And it is a time-tested and proven strategy that in other places such as Nashville and Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and other cities that face issues similar to us have used, and they've reduced strategies or they've reduced crime significantly. So I don't mean to do Chief Weathers' jobs or to suggest to him how to do his job, but I think it is important that we ask questions and we know the questions that need to be asked in order to get the answers and move our city forward.
All right, Mr. Jones. You have 30 seconds.
Thank you. I would start with a community-based policing system, not just reactionary, so that the officers that are responsible for that west sector are well known to all of the residents, and the residents understand that the officers are there to help them, first and foremost. I would encourage police officers and/or first responders to relocate into the district. I think the presence of that alone helps deter crime. I would also work with landlords and private property owners to increase their property to make physical improvements and safety improvements as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shafer.
Yes, my strategy to address crime in the district. Crime in the district a lot of times deals with poverty and drugs. And I know that working in those avenues, there's a lot of opportunity there to create a safer environment if we can address those. And also creating adequate funds for public safety personnel, which would include updated equipment and attention towards the drugs that are out there, and trying to also build neighborhood associations that would bring together people that could have eyes in the neighborhood and district.
Thank you. And Ms. Reynolds?
My number one important focus on crime would be prevention. I don't think we spend enough time and resources on prevention. One of our local narcotic officers was speaking and said that 75% of all crime in Lexington and our district is due to drugs. So I would work with local things like One Lexington and Savvy and other organizations, as well as community policing with clear officers, building those relationships with people.
Thank you very much. The next question will start with Mr. Jones. The Hispanic and immigrant population is growing at a speedy rate in Lexington. What are some initiatives you would be willing to implement to foster inclusive communities?
I think that goes back to a two-pronged approach. First of all, I would actively encourage all of the business owners in the Cardinal Valley and Garden Side area to band together as a local district-specific chamber of commerce. There are funds available to help them grow their businesses, and I would help them highlight the uniqueness of their businesses and the areas and help them grow those businesses. As far as the Hispanic community, the non-business, I would continue to support efforts between the city and Fayette County, the after-school programs. I would continue to support increased investment in our parks, such as Valley Parks, reopening swimming pools, making those safer, and making those a safer place so that our Hispanic citizens in the 11th District feel safe when they're walking from school to home, to their businesses, to the grocery store, and things like that. I think that a city and a district that includes everyone makes them feel welcome and makes them feel like they are valued just as much as anybody else. I think it provides a greater sense of community.
Thank you. Ms. Shafer?
Yes, in order to build an inclusive community, that takes a lot of people getting together. And getting together in districts oftentimes are through neighborhood associations or through parks where we can come together and work together for a common good. One idea that I've had is to relocate the Lexington Community Radio station so that it can have a home. There's a Hispanic radio, El Pulso, which could really benefit from being in that district. And I could see a lot of opportunities just to also have a district in the area. District office in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Reynolds?
Yes, having worked with the Hispanic community for many, many years and in the 11th District, I think the most important thing is to work on building bridges between folks. We are really lacking community events that bring folks together. They're very separated. And I want to make sure that the Hispanic community is educated on local government, that things are translated into Spanish, that we look into our local schools being completely bilingual, and work on more park activities. Thank you.
And Mr. Swope?
I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. I think that there are resources that we have in place currently, and if we simply use those resources, we can make a huge difference. So I would start with Cardinal Valley School and implement additional programs there that support cultural diversity. I would also use the village library, and then I would encourage and support a cultural festival, possibly along the Alexandria Drive corridor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Shafer, we'll start the next question with you. The Affordable Housing Trust is working to provide more affordable housing, but it is underfunded. Do you support the Affordable Housing Trust, and what more can the council do to provide affordable housing in Lexington?
Affordable housing is certainly something that needs to be endorsed and funded, and it has zoning issues that have to be in place that would create an environment to attract people. And even if you have affordable housing, if people can't buy it, you need to look at both sides of the story, how to get people able to purchase homes as well as being able to have homes available. So of course, having a variety of homes, and the 11th District has such a diverse area where you have apartments and that need to have adequate, I guess, upkeep, and that's not being done. And I'd like to see a stronger strategy to produce more well-kept areas and safer areas, because affordable housing doesn't mean that it's any less safe or nicer. It just means a place where people can come and actually live and have their homes and be able to work and feel safe. So I do agree with the Affordable Housing Trust and would like to work with the council in order to build on that.
Thank you. Ms. Reynolds?
Yes, I 100% agree with funding the Affordable Housing Trust and working with local residents and business owners, and also giving incentives to business owners that want to build affordable housing. But when we talk about affordable housing, it also has to be quality housing, and it has to work for everyone and not be something that is not livable. So I think that's important, and I would want to also work with city council and private investors to look at other ways to build affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Swope?
There are over 80 boards and commissions affiliated with the Lexington Urban County government, and one of those happens to be the Affordable Housing Board. I certainly would support an increase in funding for the Housing Board. We just spent, it was talked about earlier, we just spent $20 million on the Lexington Center. Surely we could find additional dollars to support affordable housing. We might also use, as it's been mentioned, tax incentives and low-interest home loans to help facilitate property ownership.
Thank you. And Mr. Jones?
I've been building affordable housing for 27 years for working-class families, very similar to the families that live in the 11th District. I've proposed real and specific programs which will propose zoning amendments and zoning changes to encourage the kind of investment we want in the 11th District in affordable housing, to increase supply. I propose capping property taxes for longtime residents so they're not priced out of their house. And I've encouraged programs that will encourage private developers to tear down obsolete property and replace it with higher density, better quality housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shafer, you started with that, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Reynolds, the next question. What are the primary traffic issues in the 11th District, and what can be done to address them?
If I could think of the primary ones, I would think of Versailles Road and Harrodsburg Road for a little bit of a portion, backing up during busy times like rush hour. I know that the Versailles Road corridor plan is not able to expand the Versailles Road corridor, but they are doing things like adding turn lanes in places that are key, and other crosswalks that would make the traffic flow a little better. So I support the Versailles Road corridor plan. And I think that we should support people riding bicycles and walking, and making sure that we have more bicycle paths for that, to take away as many cars that are being used. Because the problem that we have in the city is that there's not much room to expand the lanes, but we need to look at other types of transportation, also LexTran and things like that. So I would encourage more public and sharing transportation.
Thank you. Mr. Swope?
I would agree that both Versailles Road and Harrisburg Roads are main arterials into the city. I think the work that has been done on Harrisburg Road near the New Circle, the underpass and all, has proven to be a worthwhile project. Versailles Road faces many of the same challenges, particularly when Kingland is in session. The road gets congested. I would look to see if we could not possibly promote mass transportation, particularly up and down that corridor. That would go a long ways towards alleviating some of the traffic congestion that we have, possibly spreading out
Thank
the
you.
lights as well.
Yeah, time's up. Mr. Jones?
There have been real and proven ways to do this, and I have proposed, and I would encourage mixed-use developments throughout the 11th District. It's great to say we need people to bike and walk more, but we have to give them a reason and a place to bike and walk to. I propose mixed-use developments where you've got work, live, play, restaurants, shopping, and that sort of thing. I do like the out-of-the-box thinking on the Harrodsburg Road, New Circle interchange, and I think the 11th District could benefit from that as well.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Shafer?
Yes, there's been a good effort put in with the Versailles Road corridor plan, and primary traffic issues when you have the main corridor that takes traffic off of that into the city. Versailles Road is heavily trafficked and traveled. And so I think that increasing Lextran, increasing bike opportunities and pedestrian opportunities to travel and get people in and through the city would be the important way of keeping primary traffic issues at bay.
Thank you. 45 seconds isn't very long, is it? Sorry. Okay, I'm going to ask a quick, short answer question. Just give us a very quick answer. On which committee, and this is going to go to Mr. Swope first, on which committee of the Urban County Council or committees would you like to serve if you're elected?
That would be a hard choice for me, but I think that I would have to choose the Public Safety Committee, given my 31 years of experience in the field of public safety.
Mr. Jones?
I would choose the Corridors Committee and/or the Budget Committee. The Corridors, because that is a central tenet of my platform, is the revitalization of the infrastructure and the beautification of Versailles Road. Budget, for the simple fact that I've been doing this for 27 years, year in, year out, payrolls, budgets, and I think I bring a lot to the table in both of those.
Ms. Shafer?
There are basic committees, and if I could serve, I would serve on Budget and Finance Committee, but as council member in the past, I served on all the committees. Even if I wasn't one of the 6 people, I could always make the quorum and vote. So I went to each committee and served on each committee.
Okay. And Ms. Reynolds?
I would like to investigate that more because I haven't decided. I've been thinking a lot about that, but I have a lot of interest in all of them, so I want to research where my gifts would be used best.
Okay. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Jones. Our local chamber has been given a lot of authority to encourage business development, yet their work has not improved job creation for our blue-collar workers of color. What's your plan to make sure all efforts benefit all residents?
Well, I'm proud to say that I've been endorsed by KentuckyFairness.org, and that's in recognition of my work in both of my businesses over the last 27 years to provide equal opportunity housing and accommodation. Not everyone on the Urban County Council in the past has always felt that way. I support working with our chamber. I support bringing the land swap that's going to create a 200-acre business park. And I think that what we need to do is, if we say we want jobs for all of our citizens, we need to encourage employers that have a history of equal opportunity employment. And we need to also find money and funding, and it's available at the local, state, and federal level, for job training for some of our lesser served populations. I think that providing jobs is one of the first steps to getting people obviously out of poverty, but also reducing crime and giving a better quality of life to all of our citizens, not just in the 11th District, but throughout the entire city.
All right, thank you. Ms. Shafer?
Thank you. The local chamber has done a great job with business development, and they aren't the only ones that can provide job development and creation for those that need jobs. And that's pretty much everyone. And if you hit that at the level, teenagers, if we could work through our schools where we could benefit all residents, and we could start at that level in high school, so we could have programs where you could learn to be a police officer, learn to be a firefighter, learn to be engaged in government activity, that would be the role I would start with.
Ms. Reynolds?
I would focus on our pillars and things that make Lexington unique, including our horse industry, our equine industry, the same thing, healthcare, high tech, and higher education. And that if we can focus in those areas and put our resources there as a city and our local government, then we can create more jobs that will trickle down to everyone and make us a unique place to be.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And
I didn't know.
was that time? Yeah, okay. And Mr. Swope?
I certainly would support the efforts of the chamber. I support, I believe in access to opportunity. And we need to make a deliberate effort to make that happen. One of my many jobs with the fire department was as the human resources chief, and I was responsible for increasing the number of female firefighters that we had at one time. We had very few. And that was done deliberately. That was done with programs specifically in mind to make the playing field level. So I do have experience and understand what is required to make that happen.
All right, thank you. Our next question, and again, you have 45 seconds, and I believe we start with Ms. Shafer. Should Lexington be a sanctuary city or help enforce federal immigration laws?
I think Lexington is a welcoming place, and Lexington needs to stay a welcoming place for every citizen, regardless. I think that the United States is a welcoming place, and we need to take that seriously. We are all immigrants here, and the United States is a special place, and why would Lexington be any different? I would want to work with every citizen, and regardless of whether they are an immigrant with papers or without papers, they are a person, an individual, and we need to provide help and assistance to those that are born here, to those that immigrate here, and I would work with the agencies that are in place to try to create that, particularly in this district. The best thing about the 11th district is its people.
Thank you. Ms. Reynolds?
First of all, I want to say I 100% support the immigrant community in Lexington and the Hispanic community. And what I would want to do is make sure that local police is not working to enforce ICE. That's their thing. They should not be making our local police officers do that. In terms of being a sanctuary city, there are some really positive things about being a sanctuary city, and there's some negative things in terms of helping immigrants. And so I think that would be something we would want to look into before we became a sanctuary city. But I care about every resident in my district, and I want to help bring them together and make sure that they know that they feel safe and that they have a home in the 11th district.
And Mr. Swope?
I do support immigration. I believe in diversity. And I think that the question of enforcement would be best left to law enforcement.
And Mr. Jones?
I'm not sure that Lexington needs to be, quote, designated a sanctuary city. By the same token, if the federal government wants their immigration policy enforced, they need to do it at their expense with their agents. We have a great police force here in Lexington. I'd like to see them continue the community-based work they're doing and the good relationship they have with their citizens. I would not support Lexington Police wasting valuable resources and time and community capital on enforcing federal immigration laws. That's a federal government issue that they need to enforce and pay for.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Reynolds, do you think our public officials should visit the institutions the city funds, like the jail, Hope Center, Salvation Army, Catholic Action, and others, to see how wisely the money is being spent or whether the residents' needs are being addressed?
I think there definitely needs to be some sort of oversight of where the money is going. So yes, I think that we should be looking into where the money is going that's coming from the city. In terms of those agencies, I don't know that it has to be, the mayor or going, but I would be happy to go anywhere and look into what type of work is being done.
Mr. Swope?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Do you think our public officials should visit the institutions the city funds, like the jail, Hope Center, Salvation Army, Catholic Action, and others, to see how wisely the money is being spent or whether the residents' needs are being addressed?
I do believe that. As I said before, Lexington has over 80 boards and commissions currently. having spent as much time as I've spent in government at both local and state level, is my belief that government operates at about 60 to 70% efficiency. And I think that if we increase the efficiency, there would be funds that we could use in other areas. So I would be in favor of that, and I would support that. And as a council person, I would pledge to make those visits.
Okay, Mr. Jones.
After 27 years in business, I've been in business 27 years because I know where all the dollars come into my business and I know where all the dollars go out. I would treat the public tax dollars the same way. If I vote to fund something, it might not necessarily be me, but someone from the city or in my office or on the council's behalf would absolutely account for those dollars.
Okay, and Ms. Shafer.
Yes, I think public officials do have a responsibility. I know many of these agencies also have boards, and those boards are filled with good people. So I think it's a two-pronged approach, is to work with the boards, because we don't want to micromanage, but we do want to be responsible. So being able to meet with the boards and commissions, and also being able to visit and understand what goes on. I know that, again, previously, while I was on the council for the years that I was on, I was able to go and attend many things. The one day I remember is we had a workshop at the jail, and I was the only one that showed up.
Thank you. Mr. Swope, next question. I'm concerned with the proliferation of liquor store, vape stores, and loan services. Do you feel they add quality to the community?
They absolutely, positively destroy the community, particularly in neighborhoods of color. You can ride through any neighborhood and you will see a liquor store on every corner. You find those payday lending places in areas that are economically depressed. So I would like to see something done proactively that would, even if it involves the types of, or the number of licenses that are issued through the ABC or any other regulatory agency with respect to where those locations are and how they're allowed to operate.
Mr. Jones.
With respect, most of those are going to be regulated at the state level. We'll have very little power to do so on council. We could, of course, work with the state officials, but those are generally going to be all state level regulation. A liquor store in and of itself, absolutely, it does not harm the community or prey on the community. A payday loan in business in and of itself does not hurt or prey on the community. Unscrupulous operators, that is something we need to be concerned about. This is also about education, and it's about encouraging substitute businesses, for example, for our poorer citizens who may not be able to develop banking relationships. It's up to us to encourage legitimate banks and full-service banks to relocate into that community to erase the need for those. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shafer.
Yes, ma'am. Property owners can get businesses what they want to have in so that they can provide rent. What I saw on Southland Drive when I helped create the Southland Association is that the group of business owners did get together, and when they had a storefront that was open, they talked with one another and they tried to get in the group that they wanted to have in, whether it was a coffee shop or whether it was a donut place where there used to be. And so there's an opportunity if you create a group, and that would help also with potential rezoning of the area, because in and of itself, businesses are not bad. We just need to work with them, and we do need to get the groups in that would basically accent the area.
And Ms. Reynolds.
I think we have to look at why are they there. And the reason is that there's a demand for them. And there's a demand because people don't have enough money and because people feel desperate and so they want to drink. And so what can we do to address the poverty and the root cause of why those businesses are successful? And then I think we do need to work with local residents to say and have more of a voice of what other types of local businesses we could have. In the end, it's the person who owns the property's decision, but we can have a voice by coming together and working with one another to address what businesses we want in our community.
Okay, Mr. Jones. Here's a question from the audience. I feel that the 11th district has been overlooked, much like the north side once was. As a single voter on council, What do you bring to the table to have the other council members pay attention to the 11th?
I've made this a central part of my platform. I publish it on my website at davidisbetter.com. I think that, as with anything, it would be a trade-off. We have 12 districts in Lexington. They're all crying out for money and for infrastructure. I think that by shining a light on this issue, and making the city aware of it, and I've said very specifically, a vote for me sends a message that you want the city to address this crumbling infrastructure. You want the commercial corridors revitalized. You want attention paid to the 11th district. I think the very fact that if I were elected, that is sending that message to the city. Beyond that, it's the typical workings of a city council or a business. You're going to have to make some trade-offs to get what you want for your district and help other districts. Thank you.
Ms. Shafer?
Yes, ma'am. The way we can be stronger in the 11th district is to create more groups that believe and are educated and can work towards a common goal. We already have some plans that are in place with the Versailles Road Corridor Plan, the Oxford Circle Redevelopment Study, and the Cardinal Valley Small Area Plan. If we could put together groups that are educated and learn and can work with others, the more groups we build, the more we can figure out and reach other people. And you know, on the council, we just need 8 votes. And the 8 votes would come with support from people in the audience when you fill the chambers, and that can be done. This can be a very local, vocal group. And when one vote rises, they're all going to rise. So I'd like to look at working with the groups, forming groups, and with the plans already in place.
All right, Ms. Reynolds?
The first thing I would do is advocate for the district. I would think of myself as the representative of the whole district. I want to amplify the residents' voices, and I think I would do that well because I work well with others and I listen. And a wise council member from our city council told me that those are the 2 most important qualities of a council member. And I want to grow those, and I want to make sure that I know the other council members so that we can work together to get the votes that we need to bring energy to the 11th district, because there's some things that we can definitely improve upon, and there's some wonderful parts about the 11th district, and I agree. We need to give more energy and more attention to our district. The downtown has had a lot of attention.
Okay. And Mr. Swope?
At the risk of burning all my time, I want to back up for just a second, and I want to say that I disagree with Mr. Jones, and I would be happy to take him to any neighborhood that I've come from or that I'm familiar with, and we can ride down the street and we can count the number of liquor stores. It is predatory. In terms of agreeing with council members or building consensus, that is what I've done all my life, I believe that you take an interest and not a position. I believe in consensus building, I believe in team building, and that's the tools that I would use in order to facilitate passage of programs or incentives that are conducive to the 11th district.
Okay. Ms. Shafer, you get the next question. How do you see the neighborhood associations working with the council, and in particular with you, to improve the district?
The neighborhood associations in the 11th district are strong and they are in place, but they need to meet and be educated more. They've had a great background of, I guess, being involved in zone changes and other things, but I don't think that every house is under the umbrella of a neighborhood association. So again, because I've created the most neighborhood associations than any other council member, I would like to create a situation where we'd have every house under the umbrella of a neighborhood association. And with that, working with the council is easy, because the council wants to, in general, I have found, the council in general wants to help every district. And then once we have everyone under the neighborhood association, we could have a 11th district president's
you.
council.
Thank you. Ms. Reynolds?
I think the neighborhood associations are extremely important for organizing and for getting things done. And as I've been out in the community this past year, I've been attending as many different neighborhood associations as I can. And I've heard from a lot of different folks. And I've heard that they want to reach more residents and they want their neighborhood associations to grow. Some of our neighborhood associations are not very vibrant and really want to reach out to the community. So I want to educate the residents on local government. I want to bring them together, and I want to help some of our neighborhood associations reach out to the Hispanic community and other communities that have not been able to participate in neighborhood associations due to lack of knowledge or translation or things like that. And I
Thank
want
you.
to
Thank you.
motivate them. Thank
Mr.
you.
Swope?
Neighborhood associations are important when they're organized, and they are actually the driving force behind what makes things happen within the city, or making the city responsive to their needs. As a council person, it would be my responsibility to be the liaison between the neighborhood association and the urban county government. And I would fully support that and encourage growth and inclusion and ownership of the issues.
And Mr. Jones?
I've also proposed that all neighborhoods have active associations and have active, engaged citizens. I would like to even have point people besides myself who go between the neighborhood associations and make sure that they stay active, they stay engaged. I think it would be my job as a council member to get everyone to understand the benefits of living under an active and engaged neighborhood association, and how that so many of our problems in the 11th district, such as crime and declining property values, can be solved by neighborhood associations that are active and are involved. And it starts to fix your district one house and one block at a time, and then it begins to spread. So, thank you.
All right, and this will be our last question, and we begin with Ms. Reynolds. How would you, as a council member, address educational needs for our city? How can public entities like public schools, universities, libraries, and parks work together for the future?
I think it's extremely important to work together, and I would like to work as a liaison between them and open conversations and help them have a focus on how to work with our youth. As I've been working in Cardinal Valley and Cardinal Valley Elementary, and I've heard things from James Lane Allen, I've heard that a lot of the issues that we have are with families and families being busy and not able to give attention to the children. So I would like to engage the families and educate and use the library, as that in our district, the Village Branch Library serves as a community center, not just a library. And I think it's extremely important to work with them and build bridges there. They're already doing great work with after-school help, and I want to continue that.
Mr. Swope?
That is an excellent question. And as I said before, I am currently working as a substitute teacher and paraeducator in the public school system. I had an opportunity yesterday, as a matter of fact, to talk to Superintendent Culp. And we talked about what he calls the 7-17 rule. And the 7-17 rule means that for 7 hours a day, those kids are in school. And the school has them, they can provide direction, they can provide supervision. But the other 17 hours in a day are hours that those kids go back into the communities from which they come. And that's where we need to concentrate our efforts as it relates to support programs, not only support programs for the children, but support programs for the families, because the families is where they get their values, the family is where they get their resources from.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
The university, the public schools, the city, we're all partners in this together. Those kids that are in public schools now are going to be sitting up here 20 years from now and are future leaders of our city. I believe that education is the key to getting out of poverty. It's the key to teaching children to say no to drugs, to gangs, to getting involved in crime. I firmly support that. My mother is a retired teacher and taught me the value of education. I will always support partnerships between the university, the city, public schools, after-school projects, giving kids positive role models and positive job opportunities, summer activities, things that will frankly keep them too busy to get into drugs and crime. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shafer?
Yes, I also support the educational needs for our city, but education means a lot of things. Education to me means experience-based, and that goes into levels of like what you do after school activities. It's how you spend your time on the field, off the field, on a stage, off a stage. And I think having that opportunity again to teach kids if we have consolidated vocational schools, and we can really work the vocational element of this, but it's also the experience-based element of this that makes a big difference in a life, so that a kid's not just learning out of a book, but they're experiencing, whether, again, on the stage, on a field, and that builds their character, their confidence, so that they can go out and produce and be the person that they're intended to be.
Thank you. We'll now go to closing remarks, and most unusually, the candidates drew in the same order for opening that they did for closing. So, Ms. Shafer, you have 90 seconds for closing remarks.
Thank you so much. Again, my name is Sandy Shafer. I have been council member for the 10th District from 1994 through 2004. And now, 13 years later, I am running again in the 11th District, encouraged by those in leadership in this district. I bring to the table 13 years of experience where I have, in the 10th District, put together the Southland Association with help. I have been one of the candidates that passed the first smoking ban. And I hope I could go on through that list. I do have a website that does show, it's electsandy.com. It does show a little bit more of the awards and the many things that I've been a part of. I can work with people, and I can work with people not only locally, but also at the state level and at the federal level. And now that we will have a new mayor, I can bring institutional knowledge, and I can start, and I can hit the ground running and begin to get things done. And basically, just being a good listener is a large part of that. And being a team player, just getting in and working so that I can build consensus and build groups of people together. So I'm not always going to be there, but what I found, again, in the 10th District, when I was gone, the leadership in the district actually went on to boards and commissions because they were educated and they knew what to do, and the district was in such good shape that it just keeps going. I ask you for your support. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Reynolds.
Once again, I want to thank the Women League of Voters and the Central Library for having us and hosting this wonderful event. I care about the people of the 11th District. I care about the diverse people in the district, and I want to help serve to bring them together to work on common issues. I don't want to come to City Council with my own agenda, my unrealistic agenda. Instead, I want you as residents of the 11th District to set the agenda. I want you to tell me what your issues are. As I've been out in the community, I've heard different things. I've heard the biggest issue for me is that my neighbors have roosters. Or the biggest thing that I want is a pool in the park. Or the thing I care most about are more trees on Versailles Road. And all of those things are important, and everyone has a different idea of what is the most important thing to them. And as a councilwoman, I will come alongside you, and I will help you do whatever you want to do for your community. I will build gaps where there are gaps, and because I know Spanish, I will be in a good place to be able to do that. I want to serve you and listen to you and be your councilwoman. So please, on May 22nd, choose me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Swope.
Again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. If I have said it to you before, I'm going to say it again, and if so, I apologize. But I live from a passage that says, to whom much is given, much is required. So this is, so seeking this position is simply an extension of what I've done all my life as a public servant. I am not a politician, I am a public servant. I hope that I have been able to articulate my vision, express my ideas, and provide potential solutions for the community issues. I hope I demonstrated an understanding, a capacity, an understanding for the issues that face our cities. And finally, I hope that I've given you some insight to my character and my values. And if I've done that, I would humbly ask for your vote on May the 22nd. God bless you, and may heaven smile upon you.
Thank you. And Mr. Jones, final comments.
Thank you. As I said earlier, David Jones, running for 11th District Council. I'm running because our city's in a good spot, but we could use a little help. We need people who have proven performance and a past track record. I've done that for 27 years, and I'm going to bring those skills to the job. I'm running because we elected an anti-fairness ordinance in 1999. There are people running for council today that voted against that. I'm running because crime doubled in the city from 111% increase from 1994 to 2006. It's increased by 70% from 2008 to 16. No one is getting the job done. I'm running because past council sat idly by and ignored thousands of residents whose basements flooded and didn't come up with a fix to the storm water until the EPA sued the city in 2006, costing us millions. Now we're on a 20-year federal court order and a consent decree which will cost the city over $1 billion. I think we need people that understand budgets, that understand money, and understand how to get the job done. And at heart, I'm running because I've lived in the 11th district more or less most of my life. I've seen what it has been, I know what it can become, and I have the skills to fix that district and make it a better place for all of us and a better community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and will you thank the candidates with me for participating, and then please. I'd like to thank the candidates and to our sponsors, the League of Women Voters, the Lexington Public Library, and the Frankfort-Lexington chapter of Links Incorporated. You'll be able to find more information about the candidates on our online voter guide, vote411.org. If you'll search that guide that first week in May, we hope to find good information, have good information for you. And we want you to be sure to remember to vote on May 22nd.